In this video, I'm going to show how to make a mod for g3man, which is a GameMaker mod manager and mod patcher I made. If you're familiar with GameMaker modding, you may know about Undertale mod tool, which is how most mods are made right now. Undertale mod tool can edit the game's data file, which contains all of its assets and code. And then what people do is they distribute a patch. But the issue with this is that these patches, they need the file to be exact, like a specific version of the game. You're only targeting a very specific file. So that means if you apply a patch, you can't apply another one because the file is changed. Or if the game updates, your patch no longer works. So you can't have two mods at once and your mod will break after an update. So g3man is kind of built on top of Undertale mod tool and aims to remedy that. So the first thing you actually want to do when you make a g3man mod is open up Undertale mod tool. You want to get this number here. This is the GameMaker version the game used, or the runner, or this one. I'm not actually sure which one, but it doesn't really matter because you only need a version that's close enough. I'm on Linux, so it's a bit weird with the versions I can choose, but I have 2023.4, which is close enough. So what you want to do is to just make a new project. I will make it in my desktop, and I will call it Deltarune Example. We are going to be modding Deltarune Chapter 4 because it's the most famous game I could think of that's made in GameMaker right now. So the way g3man mods work is that they have a GameMaker project in which you can add new objects to the game, and they have patches so you can edit existing code, and combined they basically allow you to do anything. After you made the project, you're going to want to download the template mod that I have on GitHub for g3man. And you basically want to copy this g3man folder to your project folder, like so. And now g3man contains all the g3man related stuff. So we'll go over this in a bit. What really matters most is that inside base mod is your mod.json, and this contains all of the information about your mod. So let's edit some of it. Mod ID is the ID used for the mod. Let's call it Deltarune Example. And the display name is the name that's going to show up in the for people. So let's call it Deltarune Example again. And we don't really need to change anything else. Except for also here in profile.json, we'll get back to what this does later. You also want to change this ID here to Deltarune Example. So that's all set up. Let's go back into the GameMaker project for a bit. So for the first thing we'll do, we are going to add a new object. So let's do that. Let's call it object my cool object. And let's just make it do something like if we press a key, like if keyboard check pressed K, then show message. Hello from g3man mod. This function just makes a message box show up. Once we apply this g3man mod, it should add this object into the game, and then we would be able to press K and this would be printed. To do that, to actually apply the mod, there's a helper tool or like a build tool called Frida. And the way it works is that you need Python to run it. For the first run, it will create a fridaconfig.ini for you. And here, if I open it up, it has several variables that it needs in order to apply the game. For example, the copy to the game's clean data file, and the path to where the game folder is itself, and the path to g3man, some stuff about the project so it can get to the GameMaker compiler. I'm not going to fill this in live, but there are comments here to help you. So once you have all the variables filled, you can run Frida with Python, and you can pass in help to see what it can do. Let's go over all of the commands. Frida.py build doesn't work because I'm using NixOS. You don't have to worry about this. Build just builds your GameMaker project. So you can see it here in Igor. It produced a mod data.win. we can actually go ahead and open this up in Undertale mod tool and see that it just has our object and the room that has to exist for the project to compile. Frida can also package your mod, which just makes an out folder here. This is, if you zip this up, this folder, this is what you can send to other people for them to play your mod. And lastly, we have apply, which just applies your mod to the game. And it's done. So let's open it up in Undertale mod tool. And now if we look for my cool object, it should be in the game. So let's not launch the game because this won't actually run, because we haven't actually put this object anywhere. So what are we going to do about that? Well, we have to write a patch for it. So let's do that. You go to base, mod, then you create a new folder. Let's call it patches. In here, let's just make a patch called entrypoint.gmlp. GMLP is g3man's patching format. So we open it up in an editor, and every patch file has two sections. It has a meta section and a patch section. In the meta, you say which files this patch file targets. Let's try to find some code file that runs early in Deltarune. This room is called room initialize, and it has this object called initializer. Let's target its create event. So let's paste it here. This will be our target, and the patch will just write one line. Write is the simplest GMLP command. It just writes the line, and by default you write at the start of the file. So let's write instance create depth 000, and the object is object my cool object. So this should create our object when the game runs. But we still need to tell our mod that we actually wrote these patches. So open up mod.json. In patches, you need to open a block like this, and you have to write type GMLP and path. And the path that you want to point to the patch file or folder. So we have a folder, and it's relative to the mod folder, so the path is just patches. And that should do it. So now after we've done this, we can run Frida again. As you can see, it reads the patches from Deltarune example. And let's open up the game in Undertale mod tool again. And as you can see, that line has been added. So here in Deltarune, after selecting chapter 4, we can try pressing K, and nothing happens. And this is because I forgot to mark the object as persistent, so it probably got destroyed somewhere if the game switched rooms early at the start. So we gotta do that first. We have to once again use Frida apply, and now we can try it again. So chapter 4 is open, and indeed pressing K brings up the message box. After you can add objects and you can add patches that modify existing code, you can basically do anything you want. So I think that's it for the tutorial. Actually, let's do one more because this is a fairly common thing you might want to do. How do you replace sprites? You can go into the code and change every instance of this name to a new sprite that you add, just like as a new asset here, but that would kind of suck. So instead, g3man offers a better feature. I've added the sprite into the project, and I've added a blue rectangle so we know it's changed. What g3man allows you to do is, if you include at the start of the name g3man override, what will happen is g3man will take this sprite and basically completely replace what this asset is with this. So once again, we need to run Frida apply. And if we open up chapter 4 again, hopefully. Okay, I actually don't think this sprite is used in chapter 4, but instead they use this one. So let's just override that one instead. And run reapply. So now if we open up chapter 4, we have our blue square. there are still a few more things I want to explain. Firstly, I want to show what actually installing the mod looks like. So here's g3man, the program itself. You can see it supports several games, but what users would need to do is to select DELTARUNE Chapter 4, and in the mods tab, they would need to import from zip. So if you zip up this folder in out, then all users need to do is to select the zip, and they have the mod right here. If we apply it, it'll do the same thing that Frida did, and then they will be able to launch the game. And as you can see, they can do this with several mods. So what is up with this out folder? Why do we have this profile.json? Well, if you noticed earlier in g3man, we have this profiles page. Users can have several profiles. For example, I can make one and have it do whatever, and it has its own separate list of mods. What g3man does is that the out folder that's actually created is a profile folder, and Frida just takes this profile and apply it. So how is this out folder actually made? It takes the base folder and copies it. It then renames this mod folder to what your mod ID actually is. And it also goes into Igor and copies this mod data.win to your mod folder. If you actually notice in your mod.json, it specifies the data file path to mod data.win, which is relative to the mod folder, so it just looks for this. You have to remember that the out folder is sort of temporary. You can delete it and it doesn't matter, but base is the one that does matter and you shouldn't delete. This is where you should make changes because it always copies from here. If you make a change in out and then rebuild, it won't apply the next time because the change is gone. So why make the folder a profile? Mainly so you could test with several mods active if you want to test alongside other mods. And the profile JSON then allows you to specify in which order these will be loaded. So since we only have one mod, we can just leave this as Deltarune example. But if we had another one, we could have put it after in the order or before. Additionally, profiles can have separate modded saves. And likewise for g3man, you can put anything here, and it should mean that the game will use a different save folder. Though in the case of Deltarune, that might not actually work because of the way the game is split into several games. Don't quote me on that. One final little note is that technically just the ability to add new assets and patches doesn't actually cover everything Undertale Mod Tool can do. So g3man also supports scripts. This script in one of my mods makes the mouse show up in-game instead of hiding it. And it does so by directly editing some data structure provided by Undertale Mod Tool's library. So any script that Undertale Mod Tool can run, you can adapt for g3man, and it will apply when your mod runs. Another cool application of this, which is in another mod I made, it needs to clone the same 3 objects a lot of times. So it just does this using a script, as you can see here. And this will be applied for everyone when they merge in the mod. I hope this video was coherent enough, and I hope g3man will be useful if you decide to use it. Thank you for watching.